Hey, Jason, can you hear me?
St. John Park Board, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Tyler.
Mike Bovat,
Present.
Mike Moffett,
Present.
John Boersma,
Present.
Pat Connolly,
Present.
Tyler McLeod present, Nicole Bennett, Mike Aurelio,
Here.
Joe Wizawati,
Present.
town manager. Also present Wayne Pondinas, Gabe Hernandez, and Russ Vogel.
Thank you. Moving to item 4, new business. A, consider approval of Sourcewell contract for Gates Park Playground. Mr. Tyler?
Yeah, so in your packets is a Sourcewell contract for the Gates Park Playground. This contract includes the playground equipment, the installation, and the safety surface, and the amount is $388,500. We were facing a price increase on April 14th. That's why we had to call this special meeting to get this approved, just with the volatile pricing on everything these days. But yeah, this is will be through the Sourcewell process. This is how we a contract was awarded for the skate park. They're a government agency that vets all the vendors and meets all government regulations for bidding. So the design you're looking at here, there are a few color options that Jason will scroll through. But this final design really combined elements of all three designs we reviewed last month. It features inclusive equipment. You look at the ramps to the main play booster area. It's got the bucket swings that we had discussed previously. And also there's another bucket swing on the actual zip line piece as well. And there's also a sensory play equipment. You look at the sensory panel. Jason's pointing at the Cozy Dome there, and then the sensory panel. Those are all going to have options, for kids with those needs. So I appreciate Johnny's recommendation and his passion for this type of equipment. We really wanted to create a playground here that all abilities we're going to be able to enjoy. There's some other cool pieces here as well. If you look at the Oodle swing, Jason, that's on the south. There you go, right there. And then there's chill spinners just to the right of that. Yep, those two items. And we kind of like the boogie board that we saw on the one option. Yep. And of course the zip line as well, which will be a really cool piece. I had mentioned, I think last month, that Griffith has one of these, and it is a really popular piece. And we think some of those items do fit in to the theme of the area, with the skate park being on the other side of the property. It's kind of has some adventure theme pieces as well. And I think the approach here was to really try to create a community park for the east side of town to enjoy. With the addition of this playground, we had the open space with the soccer fields. And of course, we'll have the skate park. So we also wanted to, I think, have a playground that complements the other equipment we have in town. So there's very little, if any, duplication of play pieces on this compared to what we already have. So, yeah. So Chuck from New Toys is here tonight. He's going to be the gentleman that you guys hopefully work with going forward on this project as our project manager. And he's here as well to help answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Thank you for coming tonight, Chuck. Did you have anything that in particular that you might want to comment or say?
I have nothing prepared. It's more or less just to answer any questions that you would have, or if you would like any further clarifications. So again, I'm more or less just here. Tyler did a nice job of giving an overview, but the pricing does include the equipment, the installation, and the site work, including the pour and place surfacing.
And has it been your experience, like with those zip lines, are those pretty prevalent in a lot of the areas that they, some of the parks that you are accustomed to putting these into, or have you had much experience with those?
Yes, once they are installed, they're very popular. Like Tyler says, Griffith has a double zip line. City of Hammond at the park where the baseball fields are from Purdue Northwest, whatever that is.
Meadows?
It's the park where the ice rink is now. But again, they have them there, and once they're in, they're very popular.
And what is the maintenance on those, kind of? Is it pretty durable?
Pretty durable. Griffith installed them the first year that they were installed. They were used so much, we probably changed the trolley system probably about 3 or 4 times. But since that first, I would say that was the first 2 years, there's probably about 3 or 4 different upgrades with that. I don't think I've changed a trolley system in Griffith now in the last 3 years.
Okay.
So I think we got the problem fixed, and all that stuff under warranty, and none of the changes that we made in Griffith cost them anything. It was just all, just
Kind
us
of warranty,
going out there
just-
under
yeah,
warranty and things like
yes.
that. I live in Munster, so again, local park projects like this, Griffith, Sherrville, St. John, Dyer, work out really well. I keep a lot of the equipment in my car, a lot of hardware and everything else, and I come by and repair and kind of keep things up to date as much as we can.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the surface. Have they made any, like, improvements on that? Is there durability? Is that more improved, do you think, or?
The surface, it's probably about a 20-year-old industry that's been introduced in the industry about 20 years ago. The first one that I've been with New Toys Leisure Products for about 16 years. The first surface we put in was Reeder Park in Sherrville. We're seeing some failure now after about 15 years there. It's warranted. When I first started 16 years ago at 5 years. Now it's warranted for 7 years, so they are getting better. They're warranting the product a little bit longer nowadays. But we're seeing a good at least 12 to 15 years of life expectancy for that.
Well, we got rough and tumble kids over here in St. John. I don't know, man. They'll put that thing, they'll test it.
I think there's one of the things that we learned over the years is that the sub-base, the stone sub-base to that is as important as the top layer. If the stone sub-base is not compacted and set really strong, then there will be some settling along the years. And I think that's what we learned, and again, so we take much more, there's much more emphasis now on the stone base, making sure that is compacted, and we use either 3/4 inch stone with fines or without fines for that sub base.
And I was just going to ask you, like, for a setup like this, typically, how many kids do you think that would entertain, or is there a capacity? I mean, I know kids. The only reason I'm saying is I went to Prairie West one day about a month ago. It had to be like 1,000. I mean, the kids were just, they work it out, but I'm just saying.
Not enough parking spots even.
Oh, man.
Well, and that's exactly the case. We don't really put a playground capacity on pieces like this because of, how do you figure a slide? Is there one? We get into sometimes we try to inflate the capacity of a playground by saying on that slide there's one child coming down, there's one kid that just got off, there's one kid running around the outside, and there's one kid on the deck. So that one person slide is for 4 people. And so you start, kind of altering how you can look at it. I think what allows this park to be used by, I would say certainly it's over 100 kids, mainly because of the size of it. You have about 8,500 square feet. You have, the swings themselves are kind of more individual type swings, but even with the oodle swing, that's a multi-person type swing, so you have 4 or 5 kids that can be on there. The same thing with, the structure themselves. You have a ramp to get on the structure, but then you have a series of decks, 4 square decks together, so you have a little bit more, spots where 2 people just can sit and stand and decide what they want to do. I also think this is a structure that has some type of some type of circuit play where kids can go from one spot to the other spot and kind of have that chase game going or something along that line. So the net that's in the middle, it's relatively hard to see, but it's just to the right side of the slide. That's a climbing net that we've probably about 8 or 9 years ago we introduced, and it's amazing how many kids can get on that climbing net. Anything that has that rope, that climbing ability, kids can go up, over, under, and it works out pretty well.
That bucket swing on the trolley thing,
Yes.
have you seen much of those, or?
Yes, and again, what that's mainly there for is to give somebody that needs a little bit more upper body support. They have a harness that comes down, and they can use that. It's not just solely for people with upper body support, because anybody can use that molded bucket seat on that trolley. That's also at Valparaiso, out in Valparaiso, and again, gets a lot of use that way. One of my favorite pictures of my daughter on a playground is in that swing probably about 8 years ago. She pulled it up the other day and said, "Dad, remember this?" And kind of a cool thing.
Now, can that be used for like smaller kids too?
Yeah. My daughter, when that picture was taken, she's 16 now. She was 7 years old at the time. So we do make a smaller bucket, but I don't think you really need it. That bucket there is going to work for kids that are 5 years old up to adults that probably shouldn't be on the playground.
Are these bucket swings, are they labeled ADA at all?
They are, I don't know if they're labeled out there in the field, but again, a lot of it is anybody will use those swings. It's kind of an interesting look at it because people are always looking for something different to swing on. And so even though those are made for people with, that need back support and being kind of have a little bit more support in the chairs, those chairs will get used by a lot of different people. You'll see grandparents in those chairs kind of sitting in back and forth. But I don't think they truly have a label on them.
And then I was going to ask Tyler, I know we had talked about some kind of like benches or seating areas with like a table. Were you guys going to just kind of throw those in for us as a kind gesture, or? I got to ask.
Of course, right?
It's kind of funny how this all works. The playground, our bench company that we've typically used for really most of the St. John projects, the Wabash Valley, right before the pandemic started, they moved their operation from Silver Lake, Indiana to Missouri. And where we used to be able to get Wabash Valley benches in Silver Lake in a 2-week to 3-week lead time, right now we're talking about 35 to 40-week lead time on those benches. So our company, our Landscape Structures Playground Company, we have some unique benches that we put in there, kind of ugly, and they're not really comfortable. And Tyler made a very smart choice the other day to say, take those benches out of this plan, and we'll find some other benches that are going to work just as fine.
I think this would be a perfect spot for the memorial benches,
Sure.
Right.
Yes.
so.
That's something I can work with Chuck on to make sure, even if it's not included in this specific contract, we can make sure we get that in place here in the next few
Okay.
weeks. Yeah.
And again, benches, there's some spots within the port and place surfacing that I think would work out well. The fall zone's not in those areas, so I would recommend, I think like you've done at some of the other parks, I think even at Prairie West, putting the benches in the port and place surfacing works out really well. And it's very easy to do, and it can be done as long as we have the benches in there beforehand, so.
We want to be a little frugal, but also, Gabe, like at the splash pad, they have those circular ones, and I think it's got a little shade to it or something. I mean, just something to think about.
Yeah, make it nice. I noticed you have on here a 10-week lead time in order to ship. I know that it seems like everywhere you look, everything's on back order and they're at extended lead time. Is that still accurate?
Excuse me. Yeah, Mike, you know what? This is the park board meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and this isn't open forum, so if you want to just wait, because.
You don't want to know about the lead time?
Well, we can maybe get to that, but, let's follow our protocol here this is the park board meeting. Okay, anybody else from the board?
How far are, like, if we said yes to this now, when do you think would be
We're
approximately
very close to 10, 12-week lead time
from right now?
right now. Yeah, I think the last time I checked, we were shipping things out July 10th that were ordered today, so is that 10 to 12 weeks? It's right in that ballpark.
And then, like, from the day you start until a completion date, what's your usually?
Oh, actually, the installation time, we're talking probably, when we have good weather, and, this gets shipped out the middle of summertime, we should have good weather. It should be about a 2-week installation time, and then a week for the surfacing. So it should be a 3-week, once the equipment's here, should be about 3 weeks total.
What's the top surfacing made out of?
It's EDPM rubber. The underneath is SBR rubber, which is more shredded tires that refined. The top layer is that EDPM rubber. And it's very similar to what's at Prairie West and most of the other parks here in town.
Yeah, I was just looking at the rope. I'm like, all right, if they tumble off the top of the rope, you gotta have something, I know when we grew up, we just fell on the concrete, but nowadays you gotta be safe.
The difference that you have and how the rubber works is while the top layer is all one level, underneath is different thicknesses. So underneath that rope that's in the middle, there's 3.5 inches of the soft rubber, another 1/2 inch of the colored rubber on top. Whereas underneath the chill spinners in the corner, you have 1.5 inches of
Change it.
the soft rubber, 1/2 inch of the top coat.
Okay, thank you.
And the difference is then the stone base will vary between 4 and 6 inches of stone at the bottom.
Oh.
Good. Other questions?
So that, I think, probably puts us into mid to late July as tentatively, I think is what,
Yeah, we're
doing the
looking,
math.
I think originally we said it'd be the first part of July we'd get the equipment in. I think that might be now the second week in July, but we're right in that area, that ballpark.
I like that one there.
Yeah, Jason, if you want to, so the color option we were just looking at, the one with the blue and the red accents was the one that I kind of favored. Some of these other ones, I don't know, they weren't doing it for me personally, but
Which ones did you say?
that one right there was the one I sort of favored. I think there were 5 different options he had sent.
Kind of looks like the basketball court theme too, the American.
And I think having the predominantly the blue color, that would kind of coincide with the skate park on the other side of the park as well. So,
I like that.
and I think, Chuck, I think it'll be an efficient process with him. We've had some interesting experiences recently with some consultants. Chuck does, however many thousand playgrounds you've done in your career. I mean, this process will go really smooth with him on board.
One of the things that's nice about this site is there's not a lot of engineering. I'm not an engineer or a landscape architect, but those things aren't needed in this location. So it's a pretty straightforward process with this.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
The other thing is, after this gets ordered, I will be working with the park board and town manager with the colors of the surfacing, but the colors of the surfacing aren't as important right now. That's something we can do a month out, 2 months out with regards to that. Okay?
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Very much.
Thanks.
Okay, moving to,
Well, I think we need some action taken
oh,
there.
I'm sorry. Thank you for that. That's what I was going to move to. I was going to move to
Yeah.
taking some action. Consider approval of the Sourcewell contract for the Gates Park Playground.
Might want to say the amount as well.
I'll make a motion to consider the approval of the Sourcewell contract for $388,500 for the Gates playground equipment.
I'll second that motion. What?
I'll make a motion to consider the approval of the Sourcewell contract for $388,500 for the contract for the Gates Park playground. I said it better the first time.
Oh, and I'll second that one too.
That's a motion by Mike Moffett and a second by John Boersma. All in favor?
Mr. President,
Sorry.
discussion, please. I would just ask that, Mr. Moffett, if you'd amend your motion to not only have it be the Sourcewell contract, but specifically landscape structures. If you recall, Sourcewell is just the overall company that is the sourcing for the bidding. But within Sourcewell, then you are selecting the specific contract, and this
From
actual
them.
contract, although it's a Sourcewell contract, is with landscape structures.
Okay.
I'll make that amendment.
Okay, consider landscape structures from Sourcewell
Perfect.
for the Gate Park Playground in the amount of $388,500.
So moved.
Second again?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
I'll second that one again.
Third time's the charm.
So that was the motion by Mike Moffett and a second by John Boersma. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
And I'm just going to comment on this briefly. My understanding was that there was monies available also, and I had reached out to the Lake County,
Yeah, I saw your email. Yep.
yes, and I think we're still waiting to hear on that. I haven't heard anything back from them, but there is a possibility of having some funds going towards this project. Just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, maybe I could add to that. I have had further discussions with them, and I'm optimistic that we'll get something.
Okay.
So, yeah, so your efforts, my efforts, town manager's efforts, we appreciate that.
Thank you. B, new business, Gates Skate Park updates.
So I think Adam Mycorn, I believe, is online there to, from Spawn Ranch to provide an update.
There he is.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
No.
I hear him somewhere, but not here.
Test, test.
Very quiet.
Try again?
I can hear me. Can you hear me?
Ah,
Hello, hello.
yes. Can you hear us, Adam?
Yes, I can. Good. We good?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're good.
All right.
We want to welcome Matthew McConaughey back.
That was.
Come on.
I almost set my profile picture to Matthew McConaughey just for this meeting. Next. I just want to say thanks for having me back, and I wanted to present some updates with regards to the skate park. Is there a diagram?
Yeah,
We have it on.
Back page, too.
Do you see it?
yeah, we're trying to share the screen
Okay,
with you.
good. No problem. It's fine. So on the diagram, you'll see two skate parks. And so I'll preface by saying that, like everyone else in the world, we're facing some financial struggles with inflation and volatile markets and materials and such. That being said, we went back to look at this project to see if there was any way that we could maybe cut out some redundant,
Thank you.
expensive items, and at the same time make the park more flow better, maybe safer, or more safe. So I want to present an updated design to the board. You'll see the bottom design as the original design. It's elongated and it has a separate pump track. Note the oververt and a couple of the other amenities on the original design. So internally, we kind of like bounced around some ideas and came up with a updated design, enhanced design that we feel could help with some cost issues without going back and asking for more money. So the price stays the same, but the park is slightly different. So I kind of want to walk through some of these changes. But before I do, does anybody have any quick questions, or should I just proceed?
Yeah, like when we originally had the agreement, wasn't it for the original design?
Yes.
It was for the conceptual design to the point that we got it to, yes. And construction documents were provided. there was just a couple items that we felt were, again, kind of redundant, and also felt like they weren't exactly, how do you say, accepted by the community as well as or received by the community as well as we would like them to be. So we went back and kind of looked at the design to see if there was any way that we can kind of enhance the park, save a little bit of cost with some of the steel features, and provide a better flow. And that's what we've come up with this new concept. And I'd like to kind of just point out what we're presenting or proposing. First, and the most obvious feature would be that the pump track before was detached from the park. Essentially, it was attached via one rollover towards the bottom. That would be the, and the new design actually has the pump track incorporated into the entire skate park, which allows you to roll through the entire park now, improving the flow. It has a deck up top where riders can congregate, overview of the pump track, and then allow a better visual into the pump track, and also a better exit. In doing so, we removed the oververt structure, which was a lot of steel and quite honestly would not get used that often. Another feature that we amended was the we had them as stadium seating adjacent to the bowl. You can point to that right there. Yeah. So that also is a lot of steel, and also cut the flow of the park off. There was some comments made during the design process that would be better as a bank or a transition bank, which we wanted to incorporate into the amended design. The bowl stays the same. The park overall stays relatively about basically same footprint. There's a slight change to I call it the spoon, which is that longer section on top with the volcano at the end, or like the handle with the spoon. That shortened just a little bit, but what happened is it actually allows for better flow through the park on the street section. And so, it took a little bit of internal debate as to how we were going to present this to St. John, or to the board, to the group. And in all honesty, it's always difficult going back saying, hey, listen, we need to make some changes. But at the same time, in this particular situation, I feel that this design is better. Better in many ways. It flows much better. You can hold more riders on the park at the same time. You have more visual throughout the park, which is going to enhance the safety of the park.
Okay, so I'll ask the
and
question,
just-
Adam.
I think you're
Yes,
right.
So obviously there will be a price decrease then, right?
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that we needed to make the park build more efficient, and in doing so, take out a couple elements that were somewhat redundant and expensive, and that's kind of offsetting the cost increases that we're facing with materials and inflation and all that.
Jason, can you show a rendering that's got the full pump track in it? So, one of the things that when we looked at this updated design compared to the old one is operationally for mowing inside the pump track. I don't know if you can bring back the old. I should have included an old rendering as well. I mean, at the original design, all those little crevices around the overt wall and just around that entire structure was going to be a bit of a challenge for us. And if you look at the actual just flow of it as well, where they can get in and out of that pump track in the updated design in two different areas compared to the old one, where it was just one little section where you transition from the deck to the pump track. So, and Adam, can you speak to? I know you had reached out to some of our contacts in the local skating community as well. How this was received?
Yeah, you remember Jeff Zielinski. I shared this with him with the caveat that he's not to share that with anybody else, but just to get his take on how would he feel if the designs changed slightly. And his response was that it's actually better. And that's kind of what I thought would happen. From a rider's perspective, you now have the entire park that you can continuously roll through. Whereas before there were a couple areas where you kind of either had to go around or get to it from a different direction, from a specific direction. So, generally speaking, it's much more open plan. We've used the word flow. That's exactly the right word. You can flow through the park much easier. There's one other slight change that is not shown on the rendering, and that is the bowl. The bowl is not changing. It's exactly the same, but it will be 180 degrees different. And that way the shallow end is closer to that bank. And the deeper end is closer to the parking lot.
It's supposed to be in last year, question. It's not our fault, price increase.
Yeah, Adam, we are a little confused as to, we thought, you're talking about changing it for cost, but the way it came out is better. That's extremely positive. We're just not grasping the cost aspect of it. I thought we had agreed, and it was supposed to have been done last year, and, we hit some snags. Why are we eating the cost here of removing stuff and not getting anything back?
Well, that's a great question. The costs were going up in the fall as well, so it just happened to get to a point where we're like, hey, we're ready. We're fabricating, getting ready to fabricate steel, and steel prices shot up over the winter. That's a valid point, but in all honesty, I don't believe the square footage of the park has been reduced that much. It's more or less just a more, let's say, less of a footprint helps, with maybe our labor and those kinds of things.
What's your thoughts, Tyler?
No, so when Adam reached out, and I knew that he had brought the owner of the company into the call, and I was pretty concerned when I had heard that initially. I think the changes, and this isn't me just trying to, ram this through here. I do think that here in the skating community, some of the concerns that those gentlemen had after the initial design was finalized, I think some of those concerns were addressed with this updated design, where there is more flow through the skate park now. The one item in the initial design that kind of worried me was that vert wall. It just looked a little dangerous to me. I mean, I think I'd even mentioned that in the meeting. So I wasn't too sad. I mean, it was essentially going to be used just as a break or a turnaround area for the skate park, and I wasn't too sad to see that go personally. And I think that hearing from Adam and the owner of the company, and also the skating community, to get their input on these changes and that they were supportive of them, I mean, it helped ease some of those concerns I had initially.
Right, I think we're all in agreement in that.
Right. I
We do, we do like
we're
it,
fine with that.
but, as Adam was saying, over there by the bowl, there's a whole lot of steel taken out now, and then the vert ramp, a whole lot of steel. Now, the original contract was supposed to be finished by now. So price increase over the winter because of the delays, not to our problem. So that's where we're not understanding why the cost is the exact same without a whole lot of steel that has been taken out of the structure.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the specifics or the exact amount of steel that was taken out. I will say that there was some concrete added too. So the goal again was to maybe bring the footprint down to a slightly smaller footprint without reducing the skatable surface, enhancing the park. I do hear what you're saying. Unfortunately can't speak to the specifics, but you know, we want to be able to build a park that everybody is happy with, that you know we're not losing money on, to the point of having it built by the fall. That's a great point. I mean, we obviously tried, but it got to be kind of late in the season and had to you know, postpone until the spring. I would say that the prices were increasing in the fall too. We were discussing these kinds of alterations internally back then as well.
I understand that, but we agreed to the park, we agreed to a price. That's the only thing I'm not understanding. I understand things went up, but I mean, I don't know why we would be responsible for that.
I mean, I'm not sure. I think you're focusing more on a cost savings, and I may have framed it not. You know, I didn't mean to use that as the main reasoning behind it. Again, what we wanted to do is enhance the park to be more flow better and have some better visibility and safer. But yeah, in doing so, there were a couple items that definitely, you know, could help us on our end as well. I mean,
So are you also saying, Adam, that the enhancements and the change is kind of offset by removing this? It's kind of a...
well, that's exact. My apologies for not explaining, but that's what I'm getting at. Yes, exactly.
You think that's what...
I don't know. So, yeah, I know in my line of work, when we bid jobs, here's the price. And when we go over, we don't expect the company that we're working for to pay our overage. That comes out of our company, that's our loss, when we don't get the job done on time. So that's kind of where we're heading on this, Adam. We understand the flow, okay? I think we're all in agreement on that. We like it, that's fine. That vert ramp, I wasn't too thrilled about it. I get that. But again, you said the prices have increased in the fall, but in the fall, it should have been done. So what's the difference in price inflation from the fall to this now summer? I don't think that St. John should be paying for that price increase when we agreed on a price and the skate park was not completed at no fault to St. John. That's on Spahn Ranch. So that's what we're concerned about. I think that's probably the best way it's been said so far. I understand you guys don't want to lose the money, but it's almost kind of seems that your guys' loss and failure to produce it on time is being taken out on us, in a sense.
Yeah, I understand. I wish I had a better explanation for that on that end. I'm mostly looking at this from a perspective of a skateboarder wanting to see the park, you know, get finished, built and finished and skated and enjoyed and safely. So, I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you, exactly what the cost savings is. I think it's more or less, it has to do a lot with labor and some of the steel elements, but I honestly think this is a better park. You know,
Yeah, all right, so we get that. We really do get that. So with all that structural steel that's not being purchased, that's not being labored into the fact. So, I mean, here's my bottom line. I would like to see a price decrease in what we're paying for the park, since a lot of structure was not. You get what I'm saying? I mean, how come there's not a price decrease then? So we've got two things that, in my eyes, that have failed. The original design and the timeline. So why shouldn't there be a price decrease if there was less materials being used?
Yeah. You know, John and I don't agree on a lot, but we agree on this. Also, I think there's some other challenges here too.
Mike, excuse me.
So, but
Excuse me.
I have an important point, Mike. I
Okay,
think
no,
I
no,
think
no,
you gotta-
you're out of
you gotta
order.
have this.
Mike.
You have
you're-
pre-work
Mike,
done out there.
Mike, you're
Yes,
out of
Mike,
order.
Mike.
This is a park board meeting, please.
I know, I'm at the park board meeting, I'm the
Okay,
liaison.
but you're not on the board.
Yeah, I'm the liaison.
Okay,
So,
but this is
real
not your
quick,
time to speak.
Then ask about the electrical conduit locations. Does this match for this new design?
Okay.
That's an important point to ask as well. That's additional cost to the town.
The park isn't, the location of the park is not.
You don't have to answer that if you don't want to, because it wasn't, it was asked
No,
out of order.
If you can kind of give us a apples to apples comparison, we are totally in on the concept of changing over, but if you can kind of some way just kind of clarify the differences of what you subtracted and what you added, and kind of like, you know, get us the difference in that.
I believe I might be joining you for next week's meeting as well. If that's the case, I can have that prepared for you.
I was going to say, we're fortunate that we have another meeting next Tuesday.
Okay.
I can certainly work with Adam to help get any information you gentlemen need to help take some action on this item.
I just got one thing to say, because, like Johnny brought up, the park was supposed to be finished at a certain time for a certain price, this, that, and the other. All of a sudden now, it seems to me, that cost prices go up, and all of a sudden we're like, all right, well, let's get with a better park, with a better flow and whatnot. I'm not a skateboarder, so I don't know. But if the project was completed on time when it was all allotted for and whatnot, it would be done. So are you saying that we would have made a mistake because we got a better flow now? Or is it, we got a better flow now because we're taking out all the steel and not making these certain things? That's my question. We got to compare apples and oranges, not just, you know.
I hear ya.
And I understand you don't have the answers to them, but and maybe we can come up with some answers.
I mean, it's
questions
valid.
and
If the
somebody get
park
them.
were built in the fall, it would be a great park. I mean, that's without a doubt. Just being able to look at it over the winter months and kind of like pick it apart even more. That's where this kind of came from. Obviously, some other drivers, but I mean, it's always good to be able to go back and say in hindsight, this is better. This is a better flow. This is a better park, more riders. So
Okay, so next week's the meeting, so you will be prepared then, I'm assuming, to actually have them specifics of materials and pricing and stuff? Could you get that together for us?
to the best of my ability, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Adam.
Thank you.
And that's all we have for updates, Tyler.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Maybe getting to a part that I've been trying to avoid here. C, consider approval of park superintendent resignation. And I would just like to comment that as a park board member, we had the fortunate opportunity to interview Mr. Tyler McLeod, and he's the only park board superintendent that I've worked with. He's done an outstanding job, extremely credible. He's enhanced the St. John community. He is dedicated, loyal. He is very faithful. He's also an Ohio State fan. But that's all I can say about that. But Tyler, we appreciate all your service, your commitment, your time, your involvement, and it's with great regret that we come to this point where you have this letter of recognition. If you'd like to comment at all, maybe, or
Yeah, so this is a difficult agenda item. Friday, April 29th will be my final day. Haven't really processed it yet. I'll try to collect my thoughts for next week's meeting. But one thing I want to, make sure is I'm always going to be here to help. I still receive phone calls from my previous positions and have friends and contacts from those towns that I'm still very much involved and assist them with any help they need. So I will consider the service to St. John to be ongoing. Even though my employment might officially end, I'll certainly always be around to serve and help any way I can.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ms. Nicole, I had a question.
Sure.
Is this a letter that he has given to me? Would I have to read the entire letter or just recognize the
You
letter?
just recognize it,
Okay.
We have to vote,
with the
right?
effective date.
So if we don't, so we vote in order, if we do not agree, he has to stay then?
Correct.
Is that, Mr. Cole, is
how
that how
that
that works?
Then he just quits.
I'm just wondering.
He doesn't give you any notice.
That will look
officially,
bad
then
for
he's
his next
just done.
resume.
It's kind of like blackmail right now.
That may have been Ms. Nicole, one of her best ones, so we thank you for that. Consider approval of park superintendent resignation.
So moved.
I'll second that.
That's a motion by Mike Moffett and a second by Pat Connolly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Should have opposed it.
Thank you, Tyler. New business, number 4, item D, consider approval of application materials for parks superintendent position. Mr. Tyler?
So I think it's certainly in this department's and the town's best interest to get a move on and the search for my successor. I think the last time this position was open, there was a few months. There was a few months lead time for this position to get filled. I mean, there was COVID. There was a lot going on back then. So I think that certainly the sooner the better, for everybody. So this, what I have in front of you here is both the job posting and the job description that will go with it. And the tentative timeline here would have us accepting applications. Starting if approved, starting tomorrow and all the way up until Monday, May 9th, as a tentative deadline.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question, because this would be my first time hiring another superintendent. How long does the process normally take after all the applications, say they end May 9th? How long do the interviews last? And then how long do we have to get somebody in place? Because like you guys were saying, it needs to be ASAP, and I agree with you. So I don't know.
I think from the time that we did our interviews to the time that we hired was a week and a half. It was fairly swift.
The interviews went pretty swift, and then everything happened, but Tyler wasn't able to come on board. It took a while before you got here and was able to settle in.
Right.
Yeah, there was a relocation involved. I had to move to the area, so that was, part of the holdup there as well. But President Bovat and I had a meeting with Joe this morning to kind of talk about this process and how that's going to work. But we think this timeline, that leaves us about a month or so to accept applications. And I think once they're accepted, you can probably decide right away who you want to interview. And
I think actually it's not a good time that you're leaving, but that you are. I think we're in a really good position because we have a lot of things that are approved that got to get going. So I think we're in a good spot right now as far as the transition. So
And if there's any loose ends, I'll work with our staff here in the next week. And next week's meeting, I foresee there being quite a few agenda items that we would get, set any other projects that are needed in motion. And I'd also work with them to get any supplies or items they need to at least get through the early part of the season. That way there's not more of a burden on Joe's office to kind of, get them what they need to be successful. So we'll get a lot of things kind of in order and tie up a lot of loose ends. So whoever will be coming into this position will be ready to hit the ground running because, they're going to have to.
A lot better than when you came in.
It was a bit of a challenging situation.
well, I would. that was a
Yeah.
whole different animal back then.
You know,
We didn't have
but like I
nothing.
said, and I already mentioned it, that letter has all my personal contact info. However I can be helpful at all, you know, I'm more than willing.
Yeah, you know what? I feel wholeheartedly believe that. So thank you, Tyler.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. President, just real quick. So as Tyler was saying, we did have a meeting, kind of discussed how this is going to kind of all roll out. Tyler has offered to have a transition meeting with the new individual when they're brought on board, and I think that's a good idea. And I do appreciate that because, you know, that's definitely going to make it a little bit easier for the new person that's coming in. So I just want to say, you know, from me, I wish you all the best. I know you've been an invaluable asset to the town. I know you've done quite a lot in a short period of time, and I don't think that's gone unrecognized. I tried to keep him. I tried to bribe him, but he's decided he wants to move on, and I totally respect that from a professional level. So just wanted to say we wish you well.
Thank you for that, Mr. Joe. In fact, I was going to call on you in a moment. And no, you were right next to me for me to call on, so
I'll save it.
I appreciate
I'm
that.
saving my mushy stuff. You'll be here next Tuesday.
Yes, you will.
I just want to say thanks to him also. I mean, from when you came in, I think everything was a mess in the town. We had a brand new town manager. You came in, you had nobody here. We were all pretty much new. We all kind of winged it. I think right now we're set up for this person who's coming in is going to have it very smooth. And that's because of you, not because of us. It's because of the way you've got this set up with, you know, the employees, getting everything lined up. And I just want to thank you for all that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you as well, because you definitely pointed us all in the right direction. I mean, things are getting done, and it's all under your watch. Whether it finishes under your watch or not, I mean, it at least started under your watch. You're pointing all of us in the right direction, and thank you.
I appreciate your guys' support. So one thing, you know, I've always enjoyed being a teammate. We have a pretty damn good team here, so.
We certainly do. And I'd like to piggyback on what Patrick said. Yeah, it's all because of you. I think we all recognize that. With that being said, item D, consider approval of application for materials for park superintendent position.
I make the motion, consider approval of the application materials, the park superintendent position.
I'll second that motion.
That's a motion by Mike Moffett and a second by Pat Connolly. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay. What? I don't like it, so nay.
We'll move
That
to
motion
number
carries.
Set me up.
Move to number 5, public comment. Any public comments? Anyone? And then I'm just going to say something real quick here. Just kind of feel a little compelled to make a mention that just our history here, that Mike, you are and we respect that you have been appointed
Thank you.
as the town liaison. I know that the park board had implored the town council to appoint Mr. Wayne Pondinas, and that didn't happen. He was an elected official. We had a good working relationship. But that being said, I would just kind of like to comment on the duties that we and how we operate in the park board. Your attendance is discretionary. You're not a member of the park board. You can't interject into the commentary. You don't take part in any votes.
Right.
You don't give direction or influence to the park board. You speak on behalf of the town council, and you're to bring us any pertinent information you have. And we respect that, and we look forward to having that
Well, I
working
appreciate
relationship
that.
with
I think
you.
a good working relationship, a back and
You
forth
may,
is probably valuable.
please let me finish.
I'm sorry, Mike.
You may, however, assist and provide information when you've been recognized by me. If you don't do that, then it's just kind of like a free-for-all. And so, in the future, if you have a comment, if you want something, wait till I recognize you. I would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Can you
With that-
forward me whatever whatever your discretionary or your rules of engagement from the liaison are? I'd like to have this, review those, make
You know,
sure
we
we're on
don't
the same
have
page.
anything actually formally in like a document. It's our history. We have a history. That's our past history. We have a working history of how we have functioned as a committee, as a park board. We don't have a document. And if you could respect that, it would be
I
greatly
think respect
appreciated.
is an important thing for sure, both ways, right, Mike?
Absolutely.
For sure.
And we're going to work together on
That's
that.
a great idea.
Thank you so much. With that being said,
Truth goes a long way.
item 6, consider adjournment.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
That's,
Second that.
sorry. That's a motion by John Boersma, second by Mike Moffett.